My name is Wendy Peters, and I'm 26. 3 days ago, a stranger's voice told me I had a second mortgage I never took, and my life split into a before and after. The number looked like spam. I should have let it die in voicemail purgatory. Instead, I answered, and a woman with a crisp, careful tone introduced herself from Midwest Financial Services about my recent inquiry regarding refinancing options for the second mortgage on my property. I laughed. Not cute, not polite, the kind of laugh that trips over adrenaline. I don't have a second mortgage, I said. You've got the wrong Wendy. She apologized in that customer service way that implies you're the one who must be confused. Then she asked to verify my address. She read my grandmother's house, my house, back to me perfectly. The pause on my end lasted long enough for my tea to go cold. Please email me whatever you're looking at, I said. My voice didn't even sound like mine. All of it. The email landed before we hung up. I opened the PDF with hands that forgot how to be steady. There it was, a deed of trust. A loan application dated 8 months ago for $85,000. And there it was again, page after page, my signature. Except it wasn't mine. My name looped in confident sweeps I've never had. It looked like me in a parallel universe, one where I casually mortgage my future and sleep like a baby. I scrolled. When I reached the notary line, my stomach turned to river rocks. Notary, Sandra Williams. I knew that name. Everyone in our family knew that name. Sandra is my father's friend and longtime notary at his real estate office. The air in my apartment thinned. I could feel my credit score shedding points like a tree in October. I pulled my report. There it sat, obscene and factual, dragging the rest of my life down with it. Late payments, dings, the kind of damage you don't fix with a polite email. I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe. I moved. In 48 hours, I collected statements, tightened a folder of screenshots, and learned what triage feels like when the wound is your own name. I called a lawyer. Jessica Chen answered on the second ring and, like a surgeon, didn't flinch. This is fraud, she said. Document everything. File a police report now. But there was one call I had to make first, the one I'd be thinking about even if I pretended not to. I called my father. Hey, Wendy. He sounded busy, a smile tucked inside his voice, like always. If charm could be currency, my father would never need banks. What's up, sweetheart? I kept my tone flat, clinical. Do you know anything about a second mortgage on Grandma's house? Silence, a fragile, explosive kind. Wendy, he said at last, and every cell in my body braced for impact. We should talk. Come by the house tomorrow, and maybe don't mention this to anyone just yet, okay? It'll only create confusion. Only create confusion. I stared at the phrase like it was written on the inside of my eyelids. His study smelled exactly the same as the lectures I grew up on, wood polish and invisible judgment. My mother Patricia's absence was a character in the room. She's visiting her sister, he said. Timing. He gestured to a chair, all generous host. I didn't sit. Before you say anything, he began, you need to understand I did what I did for this family. There it was. I did what I did. Did what? I asked. Specifically. He sighed the sigh of a father who thinks the room belongs to him. Your brother Thomas needed help. Some debts. Bad luck. Not his fault. As his father, I couldn't let him sink. He met my eyes like a man pitching charity. The house is just sitting there, Wendy. You're single. You work from home. You don't need all that space. The equity was being wasted. I forgot how to blink. You forged my signature, I said softly, like a secret I was teaching myself to say out loud. On a mortgage. On my house. He waved the word forged away like a mosquito. You've always been difficult about Thomas. I did what had to be done. The payments are being made, aren't they? There are late payments on my credit report. A few hiccups. His new venture's taking off, he said, the lie polished to a salesman's sheen. Soon he'll take over the payments and... You stole from me. I'm your father. He leaned closer, each word a small courtroom. Nothing I do for this family is stealing. That house should have been left to me to manage anyway. Your grandmother was sentimental and confused, God rest her. This, he gestured vaguely at my adulthood, wasn't what she intended. He said it like scripture. I heard it like a verdict. The part of me that was still a kid flinched, waiting for permission to exist. The part of me that owns a deed refused to move. I put my phone on the desk between us, the way you'd place a scalpel. I'm hiring an attorney, and I'm filing a police report. Something mean flashed in his eyes. You're hysterical. I'm careful, my voice steadied. There's a difference. The laugh he gave me wasn't human. You'll tear this family apart over a loan? Over a mistake made to help your brother? Over a felony, I said, over my name. He stood so fast the chair bit the rug. You want to be the martyr? Fine. But when you make Thomas homeless and your mother sick with shame, remember this moment. I will, I said, picking up my phone. Down to the smell of wood polish. I walked out before the child in me could ask for his blessing. The police station was bright in the way hospitals are bright. Sterile, almost theatrical. Detective Robert Morgan introduced himself with the tired kindness of someone who sees families do this to each other all the time. He took my statement, scanned my folder, and asked to make copies of the documents I'd flagged. You did the right thing coming in quickly, he said. The longer fraud sits, the more it grows roots. Outside, it had started to rain, the thin, persistent kind that convinces you the sky will never clear. I stood under the overhang and finally felt the tremor I'd been holding off since the call. Not tears, a tremor. As if my body understood something my mind was still negotiating with. I texted my mother. I need to talk to you. It's about Dad and the house. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. We'll handle it as a family, she wrote. Please don't do anything rash. I stared at the word rash until it blurred. What's rash about reclaiming your own name? In the lift home, I stared at the neighborhood as if it were a witness. Porches, pumpkins, dogs who don't know humans burn each other alive for family. My grandmother's house waited at the end of the block, modest, yellowing paint, generous light. She left it to me because she saw the thing no one else bothered to. I was steady. I could keep it safe. I unlocked the door and stood in the threshold. The place I loved felt burgled. Not of objects, but of trust. Fraud isn't just theft, it's invasive surgery performed without anesthesia. My phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail this time. The message preview flashed. Paul Anderson, my father's old friend, an attorney. I put the phone face down and let the quiet finally touch me. This was going to get uglier. He would make sure of that. He would call in favors and twist words until they squealed. He would call me hysterical, ungrateful, disloyal. He would say family like a weapon. Across the living room, my grandmother's photo watched me with that soft, knowing stubbornness. You keep records, Wendy, she used to say when I balanced her checkbook in high school. You don't need anyone's permission to be responsible. I'm going to fix this, I told her frame, and myself, even if I lose people I thought were mine. That night, Jessica and I mapped next steps. Freeze what we can. Notify the bureaus. Serve notice. The list felt like a spine. Before I slept, I opened a clean notebook and wrote 3 lines. My name is mine. My house is mine. My future is mine. Then, on a separate page, a 4th. Whatever he calls it, theft is theft. I turned off the light. Rain kept time against the window. Somewhere in the city, a notary stamp sat cooling on a desk. Somewhere else, a man who calls himself my father practiced a speech about how this was love. In the dark, I rehearsed a different speech, the one where I say no, clearly, and keep saying it until the lie runs out of oxygen. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was already vibrating. A dozen missed calls, half from Dad, half from numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them all. The only name I was waiting for was Jessica Chen. Good morning, Wendy, she said, brisk but gentle. We're moving fast. I already pulled some property records. The notary, Sandra Williams? She's filed multiple transactions tied to your father's real estate firm. We'll need to get copies of everything she's notarized for him in the last 2 years. There it was again, that sick weight in my stomach, the one that whispered, this goes deeper than you think. Jessica's tone softened. I know this is painful, but the worst thing you can do right now is doubt yourself. He committed a serious crime. We're going to prove it. I wanted to believe her, but when the fraudster is your own father, the man who used to call you pumpkin when you scraped your knees, even the truth feels like betrayal. The police report process was painfully slow. Forms, statements, verifications. Detective Robert Morgan looked almost apologetic as he explained the next steps. We'll open a financial crimes case and reach out to the lender for original documents, he said. They'll need to confirm the signatures came through Sandra Williams. We'll also flag your credit for identity protection. He paused. It's going to get messy, Wendy, especially if your father still has friends in real estate. Be prepared for a little backlash. Backlash? I asked. He hesitated. When fraud happens inside a family, people pick sides. You'd be surprised how quickly you become the problem for not keeping it quiet. I thought he was exaggerating. He wasn't. By that afternoon, the family group chat was a bonfire. Aunt Linda: "Your father said you're making wild accusations. Please tell me this is a misunderstanding." Uncle Richard: "You're destroying your dad's reputation. Talk to him privately before it goes public." Cousin Nora: "Can't believe you're taking him to the police. Family helps family, Wendy." I stared at the messages until they blurred. Then another ping. My mother: "Mom, your father's heart is broken. You've turned your back on him. Please, sweetheart, withdraw the report. We can fix this as a family." I typed, deleted, retyped. Mom: "He forged my name. Sent." No reply. I opened the email from Midwest Financial Services. The lender had attached all 14 pages of my mortgage paperwork. Every signature, every initial, every date. And the fake handwriting looked so confident. It was like watching someone wear my skin and smile for a camera. That's when Jessica texted. "They just confirmed additional accounts, credit cards, and a small business loan in your name. The total exposure is closer to $120,000. I sat frozen. He didn't just mortgage the house. He used my identity like a spare credit card. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Thomas. "Wendy, what the hell are you doing?" he shouted before I could speak. "Dad's freaking out. You're making it sound like he stole from you. It was just a loan. You're blowing this out of proportion." "Thomas," I said quietly, "a loan requires consent." He forged my signature. "Oh, please," he scoffed. "He did it for both of us, for the family. You've always been selfish about that house. Grandma just gave it to you because you pitied her." Something in me cracked, not from pain, but from clarity. "Did you know about it?" I asked. "Did you know he used my name?" Silence. Then the faint sound of him exhaling through his nose, a nervous tell he's had since we were kids. "You're making this ugly," he muttered. "You always have to be the victim." The line went dead. The next morning, Jessica called again. "You're going to want to sit down for this," she said. "The notary, Sandra Williams, just admitted to the police that your father brought her the documents. She claims you were present, that she saw you sign them." My chest tightened. She's lying. "Of course she is," Jessica said, "but it means they're working together. Don't contact her, don't contact him, and don't respond to any family members trying to mediate. Everything goes through me now." By lunchtime, my father's version of events was spreading like wildfire through the family tree. Wendy's having a breakdown. She's confused about her finances. She's trying to ruin Thomas out of jealousy. The smear campaign worked, at least for a while. Relatives who used to ask about my job now asked about my mental health. My mother left a voicemail crying so hard I could barely understand her. "He just wanted to help your brother, Wendy. He didn't mean for it to get this far." It was like gaslighting turned into a family group activity. I didn't respond. Instead, I gathered evidence. Every call, every text, every document. And then I did something my father never expected. I went public, at least within the family. I dropped everything into the group chat. Screenshots of forged documents, my real signature side by side with the fake, credit statements showing transactions I never made, and one short message. "This is what was done to me. I didn't ask for this fight, but I won't be silent while someone uses my name to steal $120,000. Believe me or don't, the police will." Then I muted the chat. That night, Jessica called again. Her voice was calm but edged. "They're lawyering up. Your father hired an old colleague, Paul Anderson. He's already reached out to negotiate. His offer: your dad will pay back $20,000 over 5 years if you drop all charges and sign an NDA." I laughed. Loud, almost manic. "He steals $120,000, ruins my credit, and wants me to sign a non-disclosure agreement?" "Classic," Jessica said dryly. "He's trying to frame this as a family misunderstanding, but the DA's office doesn't see it that way. They've officially opened a criminal case." I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hollow, like the space where my father used to stand had been hollowed out and filled with paperwork. By the weekend, everything imploded. Family members chose sides. Aunt Linda called me heartless. Uncle Richard said I should have kept it private. Cousin Sarah sent a quiet message. "For what it's worth, I believe you. I always thought something about the way your dad handled money was shady." It wasn't much, but it helped. Then, on Sunday night, I received a photo message from an unknown number. It was a snapshot of Thomas standing next to a new car in front of a shiny apartment building. Caption: "Look how well he's doing now. Isn't that worth something?" The sender? Mom. I stared at the image for a long time before replying. You mean look at what my stolen money bought him? She never texted back. By Tuesday, the police had enough evidence to begin seizing documents from my father's office. Sandra Williams was questioned and released on bail. Detective Morgan called to brief me. You were right to act fast, he said. This wasn't a one-time mistake. We're finding multiple forged transactions. Your father's looking at serious charges. I thanked him. Then I sat in silence, realizing there was no going back. Even if he went to prison, the man who raised me, the one who taught me how to balance a checkbook and shake hands firmly, was gone. Or maybe he was never there to begin with. When I finally crawled into bed that night, I whispered the same words I'd written in my notebook. My name is mine, my house is mine, my future is mine. And this time, they didn't sound like a wish. They sounded like a promise. It's strange how quickly chaos becomes routine. The constant buzzing of my phone, the half-truths flying across family chat, the sound of Jessica's calm voice explaining legal steps while I tried not to throw up. All of it blended into a rhythm. The only quiet came in the hours before dawn, when the house felt like a crime scene that hadn't been dusted yet. 2 weeks after the police got involved, Detective Morgan called again. They've frozen several of your father's accounts, he said, but we also found other documents, forged signatures on credit cards, small business loans, things dating back years. He's done this before. My mouth went dry. To who? Relatives, friends, maybe even clients. We're still digging. That night, the local paper ran a small headline. Prominent real estate agent under investigation for fraudulent documents. They didn't use our names, but anyone who knew us could connect the dots. By morning, my inbox was full of messages from relatives, some sympathetic, most not. Aunt Linda, you should be ashamed for airing family business like this. Cousin Michael, if he did it, he probably had a reason. He's always looked after everyone. Mom, please, Wendy, stop before it's too late. He's still your father. Every message was a reminder that I'd crossed an invisible line, the one where blood loyalty was supposed to outweigh basic decency. The following Friday night, the line shattered completely. It was nearly 11 p.m. when I heard pounding at my front door. Not a knock, but fists slamming hard enough to rattle the glass. When I looked through the peephole, I saw Thomas. His hair was a mess, eyes red and glassy. He reeked of whiskey and desperation. I cracked the door an inch. You need to leave. He shoved it wider. You ruined everything, he shouted. Dad's license got suspended. My business partners pulled out because of the investigation. Thomas, you need to calm down. Calm down, he barked. You did this. You and your righteous victim act. I stepped back, hitting record on my phone behind my leg. What are you talking about? He stumbled closer. That house was supposed to be mine eventually. Dad said so. He said Grandma only left it to you because you guilted her. He said once the mortgage was high enough, we'd buy it back cheap. You just had to cooperate. The words hit like cold water. We? You were in on this? His jaw worked, trying to form an excuse. He was protecting our family's assets. You think this house belongs to you? Family money built everything here. Family money? I laughed. It was Grandma's money, and she left it to me because she knew what you two were. Thomas's face twisted. You ungrateful. He tried to push past me, but I slammed the door, locked it, and dialed 911. When the police arrived, he was still shouting on the porch about what Dad promised him. They took him away for attempted breaking and entering and public intoxication. I handed Detective Morgan my phone with the recording. He listened, expression grim. This helps your case more than you realize. The next morning, my phone lit up again, this time with my mother's number. She didn't even say hello. How could you, she sobbed. He's your brother. You had him arrested? He tried to force his way into my house, Mom. He confessed to the plan. She paused. He said things he didn't mean. He's hurting. I sent her the recording file. Silence. Then the soft, mechanical sound of her breathing. You're lying, she whispered. Listen to it. Click. The call ended. 3 hours later, she was standing on my doorstep. Her makeup was smudged, hair unbrushed, eyes swollen. When I opened the door, she didn't speak. She just walked past me, sat on my couch, and buried her face in her hands. For the first time in years, my mother looked small. I listened, she finally said. I heard everything. God help me, I knew your father favored Thomas, but I never wanted to believe it was this bad. She looked up at me, her voice shaking. I failed you, Wendy. I told myself his business moves were harmless. I told myself his anger was just stress. I let him convince me you were difficult because it was easier than admitting he was cruel. I didn't know what to say. She reached across the table and grabbed my hand like someone clinging to a ledge. I'm done protecting him, she said. I've already called a divorce lawyer. I told the detectives they can search everything, every account he ever put in my name. Something inside me loosened, painfully, like a muscle unclenching after years of tension. We sat there for an hour, not mother and daughter exactly, more like two survivors comparing scars. That week, Jessica updated me with the latest. Sandra Williams has agreed to testify, she said. She admitted your father asked her to notarize forged documents. And she's not the only one. We found evidence of 7 separate property schemes. 7? Yes, he's been doing this for over a decade. I pressed my hand against my mouth. 10 years of lies. 10 years of signatures that weren't his to use. Jessica continued, the good news, the DA's building a strong case, but it's going to trial. Are you ready for that? Was I ready? No, but I was done being quiet. The next time I saw my father, it was across the courtroom during the preliminary hearing. He didn't look at me once. But when the bailiff called his name, he adjusted his tie and smiled. The same charming smile that used to win over clients and neighbors. For a moment, I saw flashes of the man who taught me how to ride a bike, who brought me soup when I was sick. Then I remembered the forged documents, my name written by his hand, and the sympathy died. Jessica leaned over. You're doing the right thing. I nodded, even though my throat felt tight, because she was right. And for the first time in my life, my father couldn't talk his way out of it. The weeks leading up to the trial felt like living inside a pressure cooker. Every new piece of evidence Jessica uncovered made the air around me tighter, heavier. Emails, bank statements, fake contracts. It was like peeling wallpaper and finding mold underneath every layer, decades of quiet rot. But this time, I wasn't the one doubting my sanity. The law was finally on my side. Jessica and I met every other day to prepare. Her office walls were covered with copies of forged documents, color-coded in highlighter, yellow for my father's handwriting, blue for Sandra's notarizations, red for Thomas's transactions. On one wall hung a timeline, a visual map of betrayal. 8 months ago, forged mortgage in Wendy's name. 7 months ago, new credit cards opened. 6 months ago, funds transferred to Thomas's business account. 5 months ago, late payments begin. 4 months ago, another refinance application started, never completed. Present, investigation explodes. Premeditation, Jessica said, tapping the chart. He planned this before you even got your first late payment alert. She turned to me. You need to be ready for their defense strategy. They're going to say you're unstable, that you misunderstood family finances, that this was all a miscommunication gone wrong. I laughed under my breath. So basically, they're going to pretend I'm crazy. She nodded, and we're going to prove you're not. During discovery, the prosecution hit gold. Sandra Williams, terrified and tired, took a plea deal. In exchange for leniency, she gave them everything. Jonathan Peters asked me to notarize documents without Wendy present. He said she was busy with work and had given him power of attorney, though he never showed proof. He pressured me. I knew it was wrong. Sandra's confession was devastating and damning. Then came the kicker. Detective Morgan called to confirm that my father had forged not just my name, but also other family members' signatures years prior. My Uncle Richard's property deal from 5 years ago had similar handwriting inconsistencies. He'd brushed it off back then, thinking it was a clerical error. Now he knew better. When word spread through the family, the same relatives who'd called me ungrateful started going quiet. Cousin Michael stopped defending Dad in the group chat. Even Aunt Linda, his loudest supporter, stopped posting. The silence was its own confession. A month before trial, Thomas broke. Jessica called me with the news. He's cooperating, she said. He's agreed to testify in exchange for a plea deal and probation. I didn't say anything. Part of me wanted to hate him, but another part just felt tired. What's he telling them? That your father planned the entire scheme after your grandmother's will was read. He told Thomas you'd manipulated her, that the house rightfully belonged to the family. He convinced Thomas the mortgage was a way to reclaim what's his. The room spun for a moment. I had to sit down. So that was it. Years of being the difficult child, the one who asked too many questions, who refused to take hand-me-down guilt. And this was what it led to. A father so addicted to control, he'd rather destroy his daughter's life than see her independent. When the trial finally began, the courtroom felt colder than I expected. The walls were beige, the lighting fluorescent, but the energy, it pulsed with tension. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips as the clerk said my father's name, State of Ohio versus Jonathan Peters. He sat across from me in a gray suit, jaw tight, still playing the role of respected businessman. When our eyes met, he gave me a faint, patronizing smile, the same one he used when I corrected him as a kid, and he'd say, "You'll understand when you're older." Well, I was older now, and I understood too much. The prosecutor opened with a line that made the whole room still. This is not a case of a misunderstanding. This is a case of a man who weaponized family trust for profit. Jessica sat beside me, hand hovering near mine, not touching, just close enough to remind me I wasn't alone. They showed everything: the forged mortgage, the credit card statements, Sandra's notarizations, Thomas's bank transfers. Each exhibit landed like a hammer blow. Then they called Sandra Williams to the stand. Her voice trembled as she described how my father had charmed, threatened, and manipulated her into falsifying signatures. He said he was doing it for family, she whispered, that Wendy wouldn't understand, that she was dramatic. That word. Again, dramatic. The word used to dismiss every truth a woman says when she refuses to stay quiet. When it was my turn to testify, I thought I'd fall apart, but the moment I sat down, something in me hardened. The prosecutor asked me to explain what the house meant to me. It was the first thing in my life that was mine, I said. My grandmother left it to me because she knew I'd take care of it. It wasn't just property, it was proof that I existed outside of what my father decided I should be. He asked what I felt when I learned about the forgery. Like I'd been robbed of more than money. He didn't just steal my signature, he stole my trust, my sense of safety, my name. I didn't cry, not once. Jessica later told me that silence in the room was better than any witness tear. The defense tried everything. They painted my father as a misunderstood patriarch, desperate to save his struggling son. They implied I'd overreacted out of jealousy. They even suggested Grandma's will was questionable. But when the prosecutor displayed the chain of forged documents, each notarized by Sandra, each linked to Thomas's accounts, the jury's faces said it all. Dad's mask cracked for the first time. His eyes, once smug, darted nervously between the exhibits and me. After 6 days, closing arguments ended. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. When they returned, I felt the world slow down. The foreperson stood. The clerk read, "We, the jury, find the defendant, Jonathan Peters, guilty on all counts: identity theft, wire fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit fraud." My breath caught somewhere between a sob and a laugh. Jessica exhaled beside me, shoulders dropping for the first time in weeks. Across the room, my father sat motionless. No anger, no shame, just disbelief. He'd built his entire life on being untouchable. Now he was just another man in handcuffs. When they led him away, he looked back at me. No apology, just a flat, calculating stare, the kind that said he still believed he'd been right. Outside, reporters waited by the courthouse steps. Jessica handled them while I stood under the gray Ohio sky, letting the cold air sting my face. For the first time in months, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not yet, but the quiet kind of relief that comes when the storm finally passes and you realize you're still standing. I texted my mother one word: guilty. She replied a minute later, "I know, I was there." Then another message: "I'm sorry, Wendy, for everything." I looked at those words for a long time. Forgiveness would take time. But for the first time in my life, she wasn't defending him. She was standing with me. The verdict should have been the ending. But endings, I learned, are rarely clean, especially when bloodlines and betrayal mix. A week after the trial, Jessica called. "He'll be sentenced next month," she said. Based on the charges, the prosecutor expects between 5 to 10 years in federal prison. I stared out the window, watching snow drift across the street. My house, my grandmother's house, felt both victorious and haunted. Every wall seemed to echo fragments of my father's voice. "You're overreacting. You're ungrateful. You're destroying this family." But now the courts agreed. I wasn't the problem. 3 weeks later, the sentencing came. 7 years in federal prison. Possibility of parole in 4. When the judge read the decision, my father didn't flinch. He stood there, shoulders squared, as if the entire courtroom were a board meeting he could still control. The prosecutor finished. The gavel struck. And just like that, it was over. Except it wasn't. Because the same afternoon, Jessica met me in her office, expression unreadable. There's more, she said, sliding a manila folder toward me. During asset discovery, we found funds, about $200,000, moved to an offshore account 6 months before the forged mortgage. I blinked. So he was hiding money even before this started? Exactly, which proves this wasn't desperation. It was premeditated. We've filed to seize whatever remains. And that's when I realized something chilling. My father hadn't been acting out of love for Thomas or some misguided sense of family. He'd been acting out of greed. Pure and deliberate greed. 2 weeks later, just when I thought peace might finally start to settle, chaos came pounding again. It was close to 10 p.m. when headlights swept across my driveway. Then came the knocks. Violent, uneven. I froze. Then, through the door, a slurred voice I'd know anywhere. Thomas. "Wendy!" he shouted. "Open the damn door. You owe me." I pressed record on my phone before I said a word. "Thomas, you need to leave. You're violating your probation." He laughed bitterly. "Probation? You think that means anything? You ruined my life. My business partners are gone. Emily left me. Everyone thinks I'm a joke." He stumbled against the door. "Dad promised me this house. He said it'd be mine when you messed up. He said—" He stopped short, realizing what he'd just admitted. I didn't speak. I just let the phone record the silence. Then he started pounding again. "Let me in. Family money built this place. It's mine too." I called the police. When they arrived, Thomas was still outside, crying and cursing. He was arrested for attempted breaking and entering and violation of probation. The next morning, Detective Morgan called to tell me the recording sealed it. He confessed to the plan on tape. "You did the right thing, Wendy." But the fallout, that came fast. Mom called, hysterical. "You had him arrested? Again? He's your brother." I sent her the recording. Silence filled the line, then the faint sound of her sniffing. I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't want to see it." 3 days later, she showed up at my house with puffy eyes and trembling hands. "I filed for divorce," she said before I could speak. "I can't live with the man who destroyed our family. I can't keep pretending I don't know what he's capable of." She sat on my couch, staring at the floor. "He made me believe you were the selfish one, Wendy. That you were cold, that you didn't understand sacrifice. But I see now, you were the only one holding us together while the rest of us let him tear everything apart." She cried then, not the guiltless kind of tears that expect comfort, but the kind that fall when you finally see the damage you helped create. "I'm sorry," she said. "I failed you." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was the first time she'd spoken without defending him. The civil case was quicker than expected. With the criminal conviction, Dad had no leverage. The fraudulent mortgage was voided, and the court ordered his remaining assets liquidated. I would receive $80,000 in damages, plus the discharge of every debt tied to my name. Jessica smiled as she handed me the paperwork. "It's officially yours. The house, free and clear." For the first time since all this began, I let myself exhale. Still, the victory felt bittersweet, because when I stood in the living room that evening, surrounded by boxes of evidence and legal files, I realized I couldn't stay here forever. The walls might be mine, but they held too many ghosts. My father's lectures, my brother's jealousy, my mother's silence. I loved this house, but it was built on pain I couldn't scrub out. That's when Evan entered my life. We met at a coffee shop downtown. I was there to notarize new documents for the property title, of all things. He was waiting for a client. We joked about how caffeine and paperwork seemed to run the world. He was quiet, thoughtful, nothing like the loud, manipulative men I'd grown up around. Our friendship started simple: shared tables, shared silence, shared laughter. Then slowly, something more. When I told him about everything that had happened, he didn't pity me. He just said, "You survived people who were supposed to love you. That takes a different kind of strength." His ex, Jennifer, occasionally hovered in conversation. A social climber who'd once tried to shape him into someone shinier, more impressive. He'd walked away. It made sense. Evan was the kind of man who built peace, not drama. He didn't fix me. He just reminded me I wasn't broken. 6 months after sentencing, Mom started therapy. She invited me for coffee every week. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we just sat in silence, a kind of truce born from exhaustion. She told me she'd been reviewing documents from the past, old report cards, letters, even doctored family photos. "He rewrote history," she said. "He forged not just your signature, Wendy. He forged who you were in everyone's minds." And that was maybe the most devastating truth of all. For years, my father hadn't just stolen money. He'd stolen my image. turned me into the selfish daughter so no one would believe me if I ever spoke up. It was the perfect crime, until he went too far. Now the house stood quiet again. But this time the silence wasn't suffocating. It was mine. The mortgage was gone. My credit restored. My name clean. And yet, when I looked at the walls, I saw shadows of what it took to reclaim them. Justice doesn't always feel like triumph. Sometimes it just feels like surviving long enough to tell the story. It took months for the world to stop spinning. For the first time in years, there were no subpoenas, no court dates, no urgent calls from Jessica. The house was officially mine. No liens, no forged loans, no invisible strings. But peace has a strange way of feeling foreign when you've lived too long in survival mode. I'd walk through the halls and still expect to hear my father's voice, calm, certain, poisonous. "You're overreacting, Wendy. You don't understand how the world works." But I did understand now. The world isn't cruel because it's chaotic. It's cruel because people who claim to love you sometimes decide they own you. One chilly morning in early spring, I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Grandma used to fold her crossword puzzles, and signed the final set of papers with Jessica. "I'm selling it," I told her. "The house. I need a fresh start." Jessica nodded like she'd been expecting it. "You're not running away from the past," she said. "You're choosing to stop living inside it." And she was right. This house had given me everything: independence, heartbreak, and justice, but it was time to let it rest. While the sale moved forward, another shock arrived. Jessica called one morning, her tone tight. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "During a final property search, the investigators uncovered a second forged document. Your father created a fake will." My stomach dropped. "What kind of will?" "One naming Thomas as the sole beneficiary of this house, supposedly signed by you. It was dated 2 weeks after the mortgage fraud, clearly backdated and clumsily faked. The DA's office is adding an attempted fraud charge." I sat in silence for a long moment. It was like watching the final mask peel off a face I'd already stopped recognizing. He hadn't just stolen from me. He'd planned for the day I might not exist. The new charge extended his sentence by 2 more years. When I heard the verdict, I didn't celebrate. I just sat by the window, watching rain streak down the glass, feeling a quiet kind of closure. Thomas's probation was revoked after the second incident at my house. He's now serving 18 months in county jail. At his sentencing, he cried, real tears, not manipulative ones, and told the judge that our father had been poisoning him against me since we were children. "He said she stole everything from me," Thomas admitted. "He said every good thing in my life was supposed to be mine, not hers." I believed him. Hearing those words was like listening to a confession written in my own blood. It didn't excuse what he'd done, but it explained everything: the resentment, the entitlement, the way he looked at me as if I'd stolen something sacred when all I ever did was earn it. Mom began showing up more regularly after that, not to defend, but to rebuild. We started having coffee every other week at a small cafe near the courthouse, neutral ground. Sometimes we talked about the past. Sometimes we just watched the world go by. She told me therapy had helped her see how deeply she'd been manipulated. "He used guilt like currency," she said one morning, staring into her cup. "And I paid with my silence." I reached across the table. "You're speaking now. That matters." She smiled faintly. "You're stronger than I ever was, Wendy. I wish I'd seen it sooner." The sale closed a month later. $30,000 over asking price. I bought a 2-bedroom condo downtown, closer to work and to Evan. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine in every sense. No ghosts, no forged signatures, no history I had to defend. When I hung the first photo on the wall, a candid shot of Grandma smiling in her garden, it felt like reclaiming more than space. It felt like reclaiming peace. Evan helped me move the last few boxes. At one point, he paused by the window and said softly, "You know, you don't have to keep proving you deserve good things." I smiled. "I'm not proving it anymore. I'm living it." Months passed quietly. Thomas wrote from jail, a letter without excuses. "I know sorry doesn't fix what I did, but I'm in therapy now. I'm learning things I should have learned 20 years ago. You don't have to forgive me, but I wanted you to know I finally see it, what he did to us both." I didn't respond. Not yet, but I kept the letter, because for once it didn't feel manipulative. It felt human. My father also wrote from prison. I didn't open that one. Jessica has it, for legal purposes. He had years to say the right things when it mattered. He didn't. 6 months later, I got another unexpected call from Sandra Williams. Her voice trembled through the receiver. "I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry," she said. What your father did, what I helped him do, it broke more than laws. It broke people. I'm working with the FBI now, helping them uncover similar real estate fraud cases. Your case helped expose a whole network. I didn't know what to say, except, then something good came out of all this. She let out a shaky laugh. You were the first one who didn't back down. Most people just stay quiet. Some days, I still wake up expecting another betrayal, another forged document waiting in my inbox. Trauma rewires you like that. It makes peace feel suspicious. But when I walk into my condo, sunlight spilling across the hardwood floor, I remember this space is free of ghosts. No father's name on the deed, no brother's entitlement lurking in the corners. Just me, Wendy Peters, and the sound of my own heartbeat steady and alive. I still get messages from relatives sometimes, the ones who used to scold me for destroying the family. You should forgive him. Family is forever. Let it go already. I delete them all. Forgiveness isn't a performance, it's a choice, and I'll make it only when it feels safe, not when others demand it. Evan and I are taking things slow. We cook dinners, talk about travel plans, share quiet evenings that don't feel like a test. One night, he said something that stuck with me. You didn't just survive, Wendy, you redefined what family means. He's right. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect, safety, and love that doesn't need to steal to exist. I lost a father and a brother to greed, but I gained something far greater: self-respect, peace, and a future unshackled from manipulation disguised as loyalty. Sometimes when I pass by my old street, I slow down. The house is yellow now. There's a swing set in the yard, children's laughter spilling through the fence. It looks happy, exactly what Grandma always wanted it to be: a home, not a battlefield. I smile, whisper a quiet goodbye, and drive away. No more ghosts, no more guilt. Just a woman finally free to live her own story, honest, unafraid, and unowned.